An HTTP proxy, on the other hand, and I added insecure here to define between an HTTPS proxy, which decrypts your HTTP connection, right? So it's like a little bit different. But here the client is actually aware of the proxy. It defines the proxy IP address on their machine. Okay, you can set it there, and we're going to show you how to do that. We're going to build a Node.js application to act like a dumb proxy and goes through that. It's a very powerful stuff here, right? So essentially, you define the proxy and you have the IP address. Okay, when you do that, you go to google.com. Your browser or app, like if you do a curl request to http google.com, or and you specify that proxy, okay, which almost by default is use the system proxy, right? If you don't specify it, use the system proxy. The TCP packet is destined to the proxy, okay? However, big however. So the TCP packet, the IP address is the proxy. It's not this guy, okay? And the source is this guy. But you can ask the question, okay, if I'm not specifying the Google IP address, how does it make it there? We're gonna come to that. That's why it's HTTP insecure. So if I send that thing here, okay, the proxy will receive it and says, oh, okay, right, I am a proxy. I know I'm a proxy. This packet is intended to me from a layer 4 perspective. But if I look at the data, I know that you want to make a request. I know I'm a proxy. So you want to make a request to google.com. And that actually establishes another TCP connection between the proxy and google.com. We change the IP addresses on the packet. We create a brand new packet, send it to the actual Google IP address. We do a DNS, obviously, and we send that. How does the proxy know that you're going to Google? There is a header called host in the HTTP protocol. In HTTP 1.0, this header didn't exist. They added it in 1.1 and made it a standard. Okay, so in HTTP 1.0, you couldn't use proxies because the proxy would say, okay, you're going to me, but I have no idea where you're going, son. I have no idea where you're going. So how do I know where you want to go, right? Because the client that targets the TCP packet as the proxy. Okay, that's the idea here. And you change that, and obviously the client gives back the server gives back the results. It's coming from this time google.com, going to the proxy. So the client actually, the server doesn't know that the client, that's the definition of proxy, remember? Proxy, the server doesn't know the client. In the reverse proxy, the client doesn't know which server it's connected to, okay? So that's always, I like to use this definition if you're interested about that. Okay, so you're going to send the results, but what it is, okay, let me change that. It is coming to you, sir, and it is coming from me, and send it through that red pipe, essentially. Should have changed this to red instead of green. But you get the idea. That's an HTTP proxy. What's the benefit of this? Right? What's the good thing about this? You use two TCP connection. I don't know if it's a pros or cons, but you look through the content. You have to look through the content. That's the HTTP proxy. It has to look in order to make some decisions because it needs to know where it's connecting to, right? Host, okay. It changes the content sometimes, right? It adds its own headers like X forwarded to, so the server actually knows which client is connecting to sometimes, right? Yeah, so the server can know which client it is, the original client, if it wants to. The proxy adds some layer 7 headers that actually makes the server know which the original clients, right? So it changes the content. It provides anonymity optionally, like we did, okay? So we don't know the IP address, right? But sometimes some proxy that we discussed, the client's information in the header because it can changes the content, right? So it can provide anonymity optionally. Some proxies can provide that, okay? And it is used in service meshes. I like to add that because what Linkerd had done smartly is they use a proxy server, an HTTP proxy server, and they make you make requests like that, HTTP service 1. And service 1 is not a machine. It's not a DNS. It doesn't exist. But they ingest that because you're going to send it to the proxy. The proxy looks at this and based on that, it makes another request to another service, right? So this doesn't make sense if you request it like that, because service one doesn't exist in the outside world, but the proxy changes the content, and look at that, finds the service discovery, and then makes the request. And we're going to show some of that stuff coming up. All right, guys, so I have a Visual Studio Code here. I'm going to write my own Node application that will act as a proxy. Let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open a new folder. I already created a folder called HTTP proxy. I'm going to use that. It's a blank, right? So I'm going to use an index.js folder here, so you guys see here. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to const app equal require express. I'm going to use express because it's easier. Okay, and what I want to do is essentially just literally listen to slash. Okay, and if someone makes a request response to that, here's what I want to do. I want to console.log request, just log it. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, and then I don't want to send anything back yet. Well, let's just send received, something like that, anything, right? And then app.listen, I'm gonna listen on port 8080, and then say console.log proxy is listening on 8080. It can be any port you want, but I just chose the 8080 because it's famous. Okay, and I'm gonna add a breakpoint here, and I'm gonna listen to this thing. Obviously, now if I go to Chrome and I do localhost 8080, I'm gonna get a request. Obviously, I'm gonna look at the request. There are some headers. There's a host, who made that request, and all that stuff, right? And then look at that. We're gonna send that back to the results. Okay. All right. It's boring stuff. Hussein, we've seen this before. What are you showing us? What are you trying to do here? This is boring. Okay, let's make it less boring. How about that, guys? So what I want to do here is actually go to my Wi-Fi connection here, and then open network preferences, and then go to the Wi-Fi. I don't think I'm gonna lose any connection here. I might actually, but I'm recorded offline, so I'm good. Go to advanced, and then go to proxies, and then I want to add a web proxy. And then this proxy is 127.0.0.0, which is localhost, and the port is 80.80.80. Okay. Let's see what will happen, guys. Let's see what will happen. Now I'm not gonna even visit this thing. I'm gonna visit example.com. It's an HTTP. Like that. Anything that is not HTTPS will go to me because that's the proxy I'm using. Okay. And then guess what? If I go to host and it's example.com, that's the actual host that we received. Okay. So it's interesting. What happens if I do HTTP baloney? Guess what? That thing doesn't exist. There's no baloney service. There's no baloney host. There's nothing. Maybe the baloney.com there exists, but look at that. I get the request. I get baloney. That's amazing, isn't it? Right? And I'm gonna give back the results.